What's up, everybody? So glad to see you here tonight. Hope you're pulling up and pulling on here live on Facebook. We're excited to bring to you tonight's edition of the Soul Food series. We've been talking about relationships for the past couple of weeks. And so if you're pulling up, tell a friend, tell a family member to come on. Tonight, we're discussing a very important topic. I think it's going to be a blessing to so many. So it's good to see you guys coming on. Go ahead and share even now. Good to see Queenie. There's my wife, Toya. Cynthia, good to see y'all as well. Thank you for coming on tonight. This is going to be an exciting time tonight on the Soul Food series. Again, we've been discussing relationships and the transparency and the important just conversations that we've been having. I hope it's going to be a blessing to you. Tonight's going to be critical because what we're talking about is how to manage your head when your heart is in the way. And all of us have had struggles from time to time managing our head or even managing our heart or trying to find the place of balance between the both of them. And so tonight, man, I think it's going to be exciting and we're going to be able to discuss it. Some of you have been commenting and I appreciate that. Thank you. If this has been a blessing to you, by all means, please share the post. And listen, I got exciting news for you. We are actually starting a YouTube channel where we're uploading all of our Soul Food series conversations. They're going to be uploaded to my new YouTube channel, Andrew Randall, to my own YouTube channel. And then you'll have an opportunity to go back, listen to these messages, even share them perhaps with people who aren't on Facebook or don't share in other platforms, across other platforms. And so we're excited about our new YouTube channel, Andrew Randall, and you'll be able to come on and just relive some of these moments and begin to share and discuss them with somebody. So I'm very excited about the launch of that and excited about you subscribing. So when you hit that, just go ahead and subscribe. I'm going to share that link later. Go ahead and subscribe, be a part of the YouTube family that we're going to have, and be able to share these messages to your family, your friends, and even play them yourselves. And then pray that they'll be a blessing to you. So we're excited. We're going to jump into this tonight, man. I mean, it's been a wonderful journey. I trust everyone's had a great day. If you haven't, I believe it's about to get better. So tonight's topic: how to manage your head when your heart is in the way. If you saw the meme, you saw the thing, the tablet that we put up earlier, the picture we put up earlier. It simply showed. It said you saw a picture of the heart and the mind having a conversation, and literally the mind is saying to the heart, why are you always making me look like an idiot? Well, there's an expression that simply says the heart wants what the heart wants. And all of us have been guilty from one point or another of following after our heart, even ignoring the clear signs in our mind, ignoring the evidence, ignoring what we see, ignoring the advice of other people, and jumping into things because we want them so bad. I mean, that's why when you look at even marital statistics, 50% of them end up in divorce. Everything we ask God for is not always God ordained. I think that's important for us to establish. Everything we ask God for does not mean it's God ordained. You can ask God for something and God say no, and you get it anyway. And then we do the thing where we expect God to bless our choices. And so many times that's how we find ourselves in trouble, because we follow after our heart and simply ignore what we say. Here's the important thing. We talk about, there was an old song, loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right. And then later we've come to say things like, well, when loving you is wrong, but I want to be right. In either instance, we're ignoring all of the flashing lights and all of the trauma and signs and being in one toxic situation after another, following after our heart. Why is that a problem? Well, Jeremiah 17:2 says the heart is deceitful. And one of the issues when we're being driven by our heart, is we have to find out the condition of our heart, which may be informing our decisions. So what? If your heart is damaged, you're seeking healing. If your heart is discouraged, you may be seeking affirmation. And if your heart is distracted, then you may be seeking focus or purpose. And the dangerous thing, whether it comes to relationships, whether it comes to professional obligations, or when it comes to family, when I'm making decisions out of a season of damage or out of a season of discouragement or out of a season of distraction, then ultimately I'm going to find myself in a situation where I'm with someone for the wrong thing. One of the critical things about relationships, whenever you've been in one and you've gotten out of it and it was toxic or it was bad, many times people get with someone else simply because they're not what they used to be or what they used to be with. And the problem with that is you have to get to a point where you are attracted to a person or want to be with a person, not because of who they are not, but because of who they are. If your only attraction to them is for who they are not, well, there's lots of people that are not like him or not like her. And so sooner or later, you're going to find somebody else that is not like your ex. So the issue becomes, I don't want you to be with somebody just simply because they're not your ex. Some point you have to be with them for them. But when you're making decisions out of a damaged heart, all you're seeking is healing. And so you'll tell him, man, this is such healing. Or you'll tell her, this is healing. You'll tell somebody, I never had my previous relationship. That person talked down to me. They never encouraged me. They never supported me. They never made me feel good about me. And I just needed somebody to encourage me. Well, here's the issue with that. If your heart has been damaged by discouragement, then what you really get is not a partner, but a cheerleader. You get somebody who's going to affirm your every movement, affirm your every thought. And as long as they got pom-poms out and are doing cartwheels for you, you think that's a functional relationship. But sooner or later, they get tired of cheering for you to tie your shoes. They get tired of cheering for you and acting like a fan, waiting for you to throw your towel out into the audience. And once you reach that point, now you have exhausted a person because you've asked something of them that no person should ask of another person, which is to give me significance. And so I don't want you to fall into the trap, because your heart is damaged by discouragement, of making somebody else the basis of your significance and your meaning. And then, of course, if you're distracted and you need somebody to give you purpose and you give you focus, people can help you. People come into your life and they may help you fine tune your vision. And they may help you focus on some things, but they cannot be your focus. I mean, if you've ever been with somebody who's been on a borderline obsession, it was cute at first, but then when they're showing up to your job and sitting up there wanting to go to lunch with you every day and wanting to know who you're on the phone with, and you can't be on social media. They're all over your shoulder. You can't talk to your girlfriend or your partner's on the phone. They're there. You can't go to the barbershop longer than 30 minutes because they're going to call for you. Or, it becomes a smothering effect. And so it becomes important that when you're dealing with somebody that doesn't have their own life, doesn't have their own agenda, and you are their agenda, you can't get distracted or get into the mode of, well, my heart wants this, not realizing that these things are there. This is important because what does the heart need? Of course, we talked about even last week, Proverbs 4:23, to guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life. And it becomes important for us to deal with our hearts, because if we don't deal with our hearts, then we don't recognize damage. We don't necessarily recognize discouragement, and we definitely do not recognize distraction. And so it becomes important. Where is your heart? How is your heart? Doing a checkup on that, and then making sure that if you're trying to get into a relationship with a person who's going through a season of transition or even a season of damage of some form, you need to make sure, number one, that they are healed completely before you try to insert yourself in their lives. And if you're that person, hey, I've been going through trauma, maybe I've come through a divorce or a very bad breakup, a long-term relationship, or some other traumatic event, it becomes important for you to also ask yourself, how is my heart? Before I start inviting people into my life, I need to get my heart in order, because your heart will fool you into thinking everything is right. And your mind is sitting there saying, no, stop. And your heart is saying, yeah, but I'm going to make it work. I feel. Because when we deal with things, when you talk about the mind, it's how we think. When you talk about the heart, it's how we feel. And all of us are possessing a mind, a will, and our emotions. Our mind is how we think. Our emotions are how we feel. Our will is what we do. And there are some people who are always informed on what they do by what they think. And then there are other people who only are motivated to do by how they feel. And we always have to make sure, not only is number one, our heart healed, but number two, that we have a proper balance between the head and the heart. If you go with everything on your feelings, we already know how that goes. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. And so if everything you do is on the basis of your feelings alone, at some point your feelings are going to shift, change, and run out. But then the other part, though, if you only do things based on how you think is often limited to your level of exposure. And so if you have little experience, or you're talking to people of small mindsets or damaged mindsets or negative mindsets, then your thinking is going to be limited to your circle or your circumstances. And so then if you're only limited in your thinking in that regard, then you're not going to take risks. Then you're not going to stretch yourself. Then if it's not logical, you're not going to be able to move in a way that makes sense to you. Because see, what we understand about feelings is sometimes they're indescribable. I mean, my God, if you're in love, I mean, you're with somebody and they make me feel like no one. It's indescribable. But here's the thing that we've also found out about our hearts. It can also be an illusion. Because if our heart is not healed, then the things that we're seeing, the things that we're feeling, they may be real to us, but ultimately may be an illusion. And so when it comes to things that we think, though, it may be logical. And it makes sense according to logic. But then also when we consider how we feel and how we think, we could also be irrational. See, we don't have irrational feelings. You feel how you feel. We have irrational thoughts, because an irrational thought means, look, I got all the evidence. I got all these facts, and I'm going to ignore all of them. Can I tell you something? This is something that might bless you. When you consider how you deal with your head and your heart, how you get into balance with that, there are 3 ways in which all of us react, to issues of balancing the head and the heart. You could be one of 3 creatures. You can see where yourself is tonight. Number 1, you can either be an ostrich, you can be a chicken, or you can be an eagle. When it comes to managing matters of the head and heart, you can be an ostrich, you can be an eagle, or you can be a chicken. Ostriches, as you know, stick their head in the sand. They ignore all the things around them. They ignore the facts. I want what I want. I'm going to ignore the fact that they've given me signs that they're abusive. I'm going to ignore the fact that they've given me signs that they're lazy. I'm going to ignore the fact that they've given signs that they're a narcissist and not considerate. I'm going to ignore the fact that this person actually is still dealing with their ex. I'm going to ignore all that. I'm going to ignore the fact that they're actually still married. And even though they're sleeping in separate rooms, as they say, I'm going to ignore all of that, stick my head in the sand, because I want what I want. That's the ostrich, ignoring everything but keeping moving. Then you have the chicken. Now, the chicken is not going to bury his head in the sand, but the chicken only operates at a very low level. The chicken operates in a crowded sense. The chicken literally sits around and is only fed by somebody else, and sits around and then fights others about the scraps that they are given. When you consider how you manage issues of the head and heart, are you that chicken? Are you that person that operates on such a low level and that literally lives out of the hand or mouth of somebody else? So even though your head is telling you this does not make sense, because you're operating like a chicken, you eat from their hand. You eat from that person's hand, and you operate on a level where even though you should be up here, you're operating down here, because that's a chicken mentality. Scratching around with other people on that low level about scraps that don't matter, ignoring the fact that ultimately is setting you up for failure. Or are you an eagle? If you're an eagle, what eagles do is eagles are comfortable with being alone. Eagles are comfortable because they are able to soar above the situation and get a bird's eye view of it. You'd be surprised. Isn't it funny how sometimes you could be in something so toxic, so damaging, so distracting, so discouraging, that as soon as you get out of that relationship and get some space and clarity, all of a sudden you see all of the craziness you was in. You see the dysfunctional decisions that you yourself were making. This is why it's important, even when you're in relationships, to be careful of people who will not allow you the space to see the relationship. No, we got to be together. No, I got to smother you. No, I got to hover over you. Because ultimately what it is a tactic of control and manipulation, simply because they don't want to provide you the space to breathe so that you can actually see it for what it is. Man, it's so important, because when our head and our heart are at war with each other, and our head and heart are damaged and we're out of balance, we bring that lack of balance into relationships. We take that with us into other relationships, and it becomes important for us to be whole. And we talked about wholeness last week. It's important for us to be whole in order for us to move forward in a healthy way. So when we consider that, when you think about that, so what do I need to do? How do I balance my head and how do I balance my heart? I know what I'm thinking, but my heart is telling me to feel something else. I feel connected to this person. I feel a desire. They make me feel good, even though I can see that this is going in the wrong direction. Number one, you got to make sure your heart is healed from whether it's damage from romantic relationships, parental relationships, professional relationships. It's important to make sure that you give yourself the space and grace to heal damage, discouragement, distraction, whatever disaster, whatever has occurred in your life that has caused you. Give yourself the space to heal. Make sure you're healed. And part of that space to heal is you being honest with the people that you're bringing into your life. Because one of the problems that people have oftentimes is they want companionship so bad and they want recovery so bad that even if they are broken and still not healed yet from where they were, they want to move on so fast to prove to themselves or everyone else that they're better. And so you operate and bring people into your life and they're only there not for who they are, but for what they can do. And then once you're healed and you don't need them to do what they do anymore, then you just push them to the side. And so now what happens? Their feelings are hurt because they feel used. Your feelings are all over the place because you were like, look, I told you I was, just going through some things right now. And then there's yet another fracture, yet another severed relationship because people got together in a season of transition and tried to make a temporary circumstance a permanent dwelling place. And so it becomes important to make sure, number one, that your heart is healed. But then you also got to make sure your mind is clear. Because again, if my mind is based on the information I have, and the information I have is limited to the exposure I have, sometimes it's important for us to have new experiences and new exposures in order for us to think clearly. Because if the same people you're talking to all the time, they say statistically that we're the sum total of the 5 people we hang out with the most. And so those 5 people are our conversation, our communication, our consideration. They're the people that think like us or that fill our mind with things. And so it becomes important for us to make sure my mind is clear. And that's why solitude is important, unplugging from social media. That's why prayer and meditation is important, so you can get alone with yourself and learn alone from God, with God, and hear from Him in a new way. That's why journaling is an important thing. It helps you to move and kind of clarify your own thoughts and get a good assessment of what's going in and what's out. And watch this. Everybody needs an accountability partner. When your mind's being irrational, you need somebody to say, hey, listen, I'm thinking this. Let me bounce this off you. Tell me if I'm off or not. And it's important who that person is, because if you got the wrong person who has a bad mind, or a mind is worse than yours, you're going to find yourself in a worse state than you were. So I got to make sure my heart is healed. I got to make sure my mind is clear. But then here's the third thing that's important is in terms of balancing the head and heart. I've got to make sure that I give myself time. How much time does it take to get my mind right and then get my mind clear? As long as it takes. It takes as long as it takes. Because you can't make the mistake of being on other people's timetable. Because that's the problem. Many times I shared with everyone in previous weeks. Of course, I myself have been, through divorce and been through damage in relationships. And there's this issue of the timetable because, in my mind, you got this timetable. You're ready to get it moving real quick to show and prove to the world, I'm cool, I'm good. And so you move forward and you may move faster than you need to move in certain circumstances. You may connect to people that in any other season of your life, you would completely not connect to, but you do it because you're trying to prove a point, or you're overly concerned because your heart is not healed. You're concerned about other people's feelings. And then what do? You make the mistake of compromising your feelings, feeling sorry for someone else. And then you still wind up in a codependent, toxic place, not because you want to be there, but because you think they want you there and you stay even though you don't want to be there. So it's your time. Take your time. Take your time to heal. And in healing and taking your time, that means you got to set up proper boundaries. That means, okay, for all of you that are in a situationship, let's say you're divorced or you separated at home or whatever the case may be, and you sleeping in other rooms. Well, then you don't start dating other people. You don't start inviting them into your life. I don't care how lonely you are. I don't care how broken you are. You don't invite other people into your life and they're sitting there in hopes that it's going to be them and you after you come out of this. We all know how that story goes. Sooner or later, somebody says, oh, no, I'm going to stay for the kids or I'm going to stay for the family. And now you've got more damage. But then also on the other side of that, when you see somebody in these transitional states, you can't always rush in like you're the fixer. Because when you seek to be the healer, the problem is that's fine. You can be the healer. You can be therapy. But just like people when they are healed and they feel better, and just like the therapist when the person feels like they're good, they release their therapist and they'll come back to you when they need something. Not when they want you, but when they need something from you. And so it becomes important that you give yourself time. The heart wants what the heart wants. The head thinks what the head thinks. But it's important for us tonight to bring balance into that so that we don't do damage to ourselves and we don't do damage to other people. I'm praying for you tonight because those of us here who've experienced head and heart, those of us who've experienced issues where, man, I've been damaged, man, I've been discouraged, man, I've been distracted, and I've made decisions out of that hurt me. Listen, I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, I got rewards points for it, all of that kind of stuff. Been in that space where you're trying to pull yourself together. And you're trying to pull yourself together in all of your relationships, in all areas of your life, and trying to be all things to all people. But the first person that you owe it to be your best for is not your next. And you don't even have to worry about your ex. The person that you have to be concerned about is you. And so when you made the decision to focus on you, you find yourselves like the Bible describes David in Psalm 78:72. It says that he led the people with the integrity of his heart and the skillfulness of his hand. In other words, his heart was pure and his mind was clear. And because his heart was pure and his mind was clear, he was able to be effective. My prayer for you in this season of wholeness is that you're able to be effective. Effective for your families, effective in your personal walk with God, effective in your finances, effective in your career, effective in how you manage your own life. And that can only be done when your heart is healed and your head is clear. Let's pray. God, how we honor you. Now we thank you tonight just for this opportunity. God, someone's listening tonight, and I believe healing is coming to their heart. I believe someone's been coming through a season of damage and discouragement or distraction, this season of transition, and didn't know what to do and was making bad decisions of well-intentioned feelings, ignoring the facts, ignoring their mind. Or some person was so far over in their mind, damaged because of the information they've been receiving, that they're ignoring their heart, not following their passion, not pursuing their purpose, not understanding their focus in the way that you've ordained for their lives. And so, God, today I pray for healing for damaged emotions. I pray for clarity of mind. And we believe you, God, for wholeness. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Listen, I pray it's been a blessing to you. Like I said, if you've been coming on, get ready for our very own YouTube channel. I need you to subscribe. Need you to share and like as many of the posts as you can. And tonight, this has been a blessing to you. Share it with somebody, man. Share this post. Comment below. I'll respond back in the comments. If you got questions, things that you want to talk about, I'll be more than happy to do that, man. I'm an open book. And I believe we all have our journey and have our space that we're obligated to share that with other people to help them get to the place that you are. You're not alone. And you're not the first person that's been through what you're going through right now. You're not the first person to even think what you're thinking. But I believe God has allowed us all to be here to help each other. And so if you're here in Shreveport, let me always invite you to the Abounding Faith Temple. Man, this month we're celebrating 15 years. Church anniversary. The kids are kicking it off Sunday, man. Bring your kids. You'll be excited. You'll be so excited to be a part of what we're doing all month long. 7288 Greenwood Road, Suite 102, Shreveport, Louisiana. Man, I cannot wait to see you. But as always, as I say in closing, remember, we don't fight for the victory. We fight from our place of victory because the victory is already ours. You be blessed, and I'll see you next week on the Soul Food Series. Good night.